Here are 5 evidence-based food swaps that can lower the risk of dementia and help you stay sharp and focused. So we know that diet can certainly help the brain and body. You see on this slide that we've got up here, it increases the number of antioxidants when you have a Mediterranean style diet. It can also improve the quality of your gut microbe population, so increasing the diversity and the maintenance, the ability of those bugs to do their job. And it can also reduce inflammation systemically, i.e. in your body, but also neuroinflammation as well. So reducing the inflammation that is in your brain, as well as improving insulin resistance. So that is the resistance to the hormone that drives sugar from your bloodstream into cells where it can be packaged and utilized for energy. We're going to be talking about quick swaps that can help you maintain essentially a Mediterranean diet today. There are a number of other diets that can increase the quality of these antioxidants in your food as well. So there's the DASH diet, the MIND diet, which is a focus on Mediterranean style, but modified to increase things like berries and green leafy vegetables. But you've also got some niche diets, so things like ketogenic diets or the Mediterranean ketogenic diet, which definitely have therapeutic value, and we'll talk about that in another podcast episode. Swap number 1 is white rice and white pasta for whole grain. So we want to be eating more things like barley, buckwheat, rye, black rice, brown rice. Essentially, you want to be making sure that you are having less of this and much more of this. This is red Karmagoo rice. It takes around 20 to 25 minutes to cook versus 10, 12 minutes or so for white rice. This is actually pudding rice. So this is the kind of stuff that you want to be having in your diet. Why? Refined grains like white rice and pasta have the outer layers stripped during the processing, which leaves just the starchy content in the middle. This makes them soft and also long-lasting, but it removes things like B vitamins and fiber. And any more refined carbohydrates or a diet with a high glycemic index is linked to impaired glucose metabolism and increased accumulation of certain peptides in the brain, which give risk to things like Alzheimer's disease and cognitive decline as well. Conversely, whole grains are packed with dietary fiber, phytochemicals, and essential micronutrients. And if you have a look at this image that I'm pulling up on screen right now, this essentially shows you the processing method. So what happens is you're reducing the bran on the outside, which is around 13 to 17% of the product. Now, you'll see within this bran that is stripped out in this stuff over here, the white stuff, you're missing out on the B complex vitamins that we know are so essential for brain health. You're missing out on things like trace minerals, as well as the dietary fiber that will support your gut microbes as well. So if you're having less of the white stuff and more of the brown stuff, the whole grain, you're getting much more of these products that are also giving rise to the improvement of blood glucose regulation in your body as well. So you're going to have improvements in insulin sensitivity. In fact, there are studies that show that when you eat more whole grains, it can improve metabolic markers linked to cognitive function, including inflammation, glucose metabolism, like I mentioned, blood pressure, cholesterol. And studies have found that people who ate more whole grains have a lower risk of dementia and Alzheimer's disease compared to those who ate the least. How much should you be going for? Well, you want to be aiming for around 3 servings of whole grains each day, but a serving isn't actually that much. It's around 48 grams per serving. So in essence, this is actually quite restricted in carbohydrates. You're having around 150 grams of carbohydrates per day, but assuming as long as it's this stuff, that's actually a lot healthier for you. I know a lot of people are anti-carbs, but this is the kind of carbs that you want to be focusing your diet around. Another tip I have is to ensure that you're having a variety of whole grains. So instead of just having brown rice, mix it up. Have things like barley, have things like oats as well, whole oats. You're getting different types of phytochemicals and things like beta-glucan. Diversity is key to getting most of the benefits. And a top tip is also to look for high fiber grains with more than 6 grams of fiber per 100 grams. So if you look at the packet, flip it around, everything should be displayed per 100 grams. You want to be looking for a minimum of 6 grams of fiber per 100 grams. The next swap is sausages, bacon, and processed meats for fatty fish. We know that the general aim when it comes to improving the sharpness and staving off potential dementia is to lower your intake of ultra-processed foods, but also saturated fat coming from things like ultra-processed meat. So sausages, bacon, processed hams, that kind of stuff. And if you crave that fattiness, which is actually very good for you, good fats are very good for your brain, then try and go for fatty fish, things like salmon, mackerel, trout. And the goal for this is to get around 100 grams of fish or shellfish 3 times per week, including at least one portion of oily fish. And this is the kind of oily fish that I have. I usually get it fresh, but sometimes, when you're in a rush, these are actually good options. So things like sardines, herring, they're very popular in certain European diets and Mediterranean diets as well. And in fact, these are the cheaper sorts of fish as well. They're usually smaller. They usually have less heavy metal contaminants in as well, rather than the big fish. So I try and get this in at least 2 to 3 times per week, and that's around 100 grams. So it's not actually that big a serving. Fatty fish, like these types of fish, are high in omega-3 fatty acids that are of the long chain variety, so particularly EPA and DHA, and these may protect brain health by reducing damaged vessels, reducing the risk of high blood pressure, and reducing the risk of stroke and heart disease that can be related to a higher risk of dementia. A recent meta-analysis of cohort studies found that fish intake of up to 2 portions per week was associated with marginally a 10% reduction in all-cause dementia risk and a 30% reduction in the risk of Alzheimer's disease later in life. Fish consumption higher than 2 to 3 portions per week was not found to provide substantial additional benefit as well, which is why I tend to go for this around 2 to 3 times per week myself. There was another meta-analysis of 7 prospective cohort studies with a total of 30,000 participants, and likewise found an association between high fish intake and a lower risk of dementia compared to those with low fish consumption. Now, there is a big caveat here. We're looking at observational studies. There's a lot of limitations with those, but overall, when you're looking mechanistically at the reasons as to why people may have lower risks of dementia with higher intakes of fatty fish, everything points back to these omega-3 fatty acids. So if you want to do a swap that will be fantastic for your health, swap out the ultra-processed meats and go for oily fish instead. Number 3 is swapping out sugary snacks for berries. Berries come in lots of different types. I tend to go for fresh when they're in season, but when they're out of season, you can go for frozen as well. Frozen berries actually lock in a lot of the nutrients, and the ones that I want to be focusing my diet around are the ones that are highest in anthocyanins. So these are found in abundance in things like black currants, blackberries, raspberries, and also some novel berries like haskellberries as well that you can find powdered. They're also a source of vitamins like vitamin C, vitamin E, and the flavonoid, which is of particular benefit, are those anthocyanins that I mentioned as well. Another way in which berries can improve brain function is preserving neurons and also increasing neurogenesis. So that is the production of new neuronal cells, something that we didn't think that was possible just a few years ago. And it also lowers inflammation and neuroinflammation as well. So this potentially is the reason why in clinical trials where berry supplementation is used, it's shown to improve brain function in the short term, including improving memory and improving learning as well. As well as being a staple of the Mediterranean diet, it's also used in the MIND diet, which is the modified Mediterranean diet that is particularly used for things like psychiatric health and brain health. Berries, like I said, are that concentrated milieu of different flavonoids that can improve brain function and reduce inflammation. So you want to be trying to get some of these in your diet every single day. When it comes to dose, it really depends. So at least 2 servings a week of berries is something that I, as a minimum, would suggest. I try and get berries in every single day. Because they're frozen, because they're so accessible, you can try and get 50 to 100 grams every single day of berries for those benefits to your brain. So that's a great swap. Instead of having sugary pastries and sweets and snacks like that, put some berries on the table instead. Just a quick one. If you're enjoying this kind of content, you will love our free newsletter called Eat, Listen, Read. Every week, I send you a recipe that you'll absolutely love, something to listen to, something to read, sometimes something to watch, less than 3 minutes, and it will help you have a healthful, happier week. You can find that in the link down below. Swap number 4 is swapping red meat for beans. These are some of my favorite beans. These are black beans here, but there are so many different types of beans you can utilize. Borlotti beans, cannellini beans. And the reason why is because the Mind diet, which is something that we're going to be referring to quite a bit, they recommend less than 4 servings a week of red meat, which includes things like beef, pork, lamb, and products made from these meats to lower things like saturated fats. But I'm not of the opinion that you need to be completely removing red meat from your diet in total to achieve these dementia lowering effects. I actually think that red meat does contain some very important ingredients beyond just the amino acids that might actually be brain healthy. But the uncomfortable truth is that we consume far too much red meat in our diet generally, and the quality of that red meat is usually quite poor. If you are consuming quite a lot of red meat in your diet, i.e. more than 3 to 4 times per week, you want to try and get beans into your diet. Beans are a fantastic source of dietary fiber, B vitamins, polyphenols, flavonoids, phenolic acids. These all contribute to the inflammation lowering effect of beans, and they can also improve the quality of your gut microbiota that can further lower inflammation as well. Eating beans is tied to a lower risk of heart disease, 28% lower risk of cognitive decline for each additional 3 servings per week. So you really want to be trying to get as many beans and as much variety of beans in your diet as possible. As an extra bonus as well for beans, we know that more beans in your diet lowers cholesterol and the risk of heart disease. And heart health and brain health are very much intertwined. So if you're improving your heart health with beans, then you're definitely going to be improving your brain health as well. And our final swap is butter for extra virgin olive oil. We're massive fans of extra virgin olive oil in the doctor's kitchen. The reason why is because 7 grams, just 7 grams per day of extra virgin olive oil is associated with a 28% low risk of dementia-related death. This is pretty phenomenal. We've talked about extra virgin olive oil a lot in previous episodes. You've got a real dense variety of different unique polyphenols in the olive oil itself. You've got oleopenes, you've got hydroxytyrosols, you've got a whole bunch of inflammation reducing chemicals in this product, and you want to make sure you're getting a good quality extra virgin olive oil. And if you don't know, just type in olive oil doctor's kitchen and we'll tell you all about it on another episode that we've done. It is the main fat in the Mediterranean diet. It's also rich in monounsaturated fatty acids and polyphenols that can further reduce inflammation and protect against cognitive decline as well. Just as a few bonuses, I've got a few additions to your diet as well that would be brain protective. So trying to get a side of leafy greens every single mealtime. The reason why is because it brings you closer to that Mediterranean diet that we know is so healthful and packed full of antioxidants. You can use whatever greens you like, whether it's kale, cavallonero, Swiss chard, spinach, arugula, or rocket. These are fantastic nutrient-dense ingredients that we know can protect your brain. Using herbs and spices like turmeric, ginger, cinnamon, rosemary, these are all wonderful, again, additions to your polyphenol load that we know more polyphenols in your diet, the lower the risk of things like dementia. And just a handful of nuts and seeds per day, again, increases the monounsaturated fatty acids, which is a quality fat that again can support brain health, neurogenesis, and overall improve your microbiota, which can again improve your brain health as well. So those are our top dietary swaps for dementia to lower your risk of brain-related illnesses and to improve your heart health. And as a final reminder, we just want to remind you that it's not just about diet. So whilst we talked about fish today, whole grains, fruit, vegetables, olive oil, you also want to think about the other elements of lifestyle that can improve your brain health. So the social aspects of eating, the conviviality, the community aspect, these are all things that will keep your brain sharp and fresh. And I think loneliness is something that shouldn't be forgotten about either. So ensuring that, yes, diet is part of your strategy, but you want to be thinking about the social aspects of it and the exercise aspects of it as well, especially as it pertains to things like neurogenesis. Exercise is perhaps one of the strongest cues for staving off dementia. So making sure that you're doing all the things that we said about diet, but also the exercise related areas as well. If you love this episode, you'll love this one where I talk about the foods that can lower cholesterol and improve your heart health.